All right, stand by. 10 seconds.
Camera one.
Talent.
Ready, camera two.
And cue talent.
2, 1.
Roll for record.
There's big flap over the Confederate flag. I'm John Phillips, and this is The Rundown. In the wake of the Charleston church shooting that left 9 black churchgoers dead at the hands of a white kid who posed repeatedly with the Confederate flag, South Carolina politicians with national ambitions are calling for the Confederate flag, which is flying on a memorial near the state capitol, to be removed. Let's go ahead and listen to Governor Nikki Haley.
Today, we are here in a moment of unity in our state, without ill will, to say it's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds.
Senator and presidential candidate Lindsey Graham also weighed in on it. He did it on CNN.
This is a circumstance of where the people led the politicians. I came to conclude after going to Charleston that we had to act, and sooner rather than later, and God help South Carolina if we fail to achieve the goal of removing the flag.
Now, according to South Carolina state law, the flag can't be removed or even lowered without a 2/3 vote of both houses of the state legislature, which could take months and may not even pass. According to an unofficial vote count conducted by the Post-Courier, there's nowhere near the 2/3 support that they need to remove the flag. The Stars and Bars are also under attack in the state of Mississippi, where it's incorporated into the state flag. And Virginia, where Governor Terry McAuliffe has said he'll take it off license plates, and Alabama, where flags were removed from the Capitol grounds by order of Governor Robert Bentley. Now, nobody's yet talking about a Confederate flag ban, just about removing it from public property. But many businesses, including Amazon.com, eBay, Etsy, Sears, and Walmart, have said they'll no longer sell merchandise featuring the Confederate flag. Even NASCAR says the flag should come down. Those who want the flag to go say it's an overt symbol of racial oppression, and the Confederacy tried to destroy America. But to many, the Confederate flag is consecrated by the blood of their forefathers who fought and died to preserve their way of life. Inflaming the issue is the vandalism statues and war memorials connected to the Confederacy and petitions to start a Burn the Confederate Flag Day. Both sides are passionate. Both sides seem unlikely to compromise. So will the flag be folded, or will the Confederacy rise again? To answer these questions and much, much more, we turn to our pal Scott Ott, who's in his home studio in the great state of Texas, and here in California, stand-up comic and PJTV contributor Stephen Cruiser. Now, Cruiser, let's start with you. You're in California, as am I, although you're an Arizonan who's living here. I still consider you an Arizonan. And whenever we're asked about it, I think most of us say the same thing, or at least my answer is, look, I would take it down, or I would vote to take it down if I lived in South Carolina, but I don't live in South Carolina, so it's up to them to figure out what to do. We have the governor, we have both United States senators, we have the chairman of both political parties, we have a bipartisan coalition of people in South Carolina that came out to the big press conference where the governor spoke, who say they want to take it down. Have we finally reached the point where South Carolinians want to take down their own flag?
Well, as I am an Arizonan, in Arizona, there is no state less likely to comply with federal edicts or federal sentiment than the state of Arizona. I would say South Carolina, the population there might just decide to dig in now. There could be a backlash. They might decide to dig in. They may never get the votes for this. I have traveled extensively throughout the South, throughout my career and everything, and I've never quite gotten the love for the Confederacy. I mean, I understand part of it, but it's still a war they lost. I mean, to the victor go the spoils, and none of the memorials. I mean, and then none of the memorials go to the losers. Losers don't. Losing side of a war doesn't generally get to build memorials after. I mean, unless they're still viewing this as an occupation. I mean, if they think that they're in occupied South Carolina, then it makes sense. But as far as battles go, this seems like an easy one. Let's just go. I will say this. I'll finish with this. This has nothing to do with the shooting in South Carolina. Okay, this is like the fact that they're acting like this is accomplishing something is silly.
You know, Scott, I want to piggyback on something Stephen said because I think it's very important. He's right. They lost. And there are consequences to losing a war. The United States, the North won, so the stars and stripes are flying over all of those states. When I drive around here in Southern California and Mexico's engaged in a soccer match, or there's a big protest going on in downtown LA for amnesty, and I see the Mexican flag flying, or I see the Aslan flag flying, it bothers me. because that's not the flag of this country. That's the flag of the country that we defeated, and now California is part of the United States. It's not part of Mexico. Is it right to have those same feelings towards a Confederate flag?
Well, I agree with Cruiser in a sense. You know, y'all lost the war. You don't get to fly the flag anymore. You are the losers, and we're taking that down. We don't need an act of your legislature. I think maybe we need to send, you know, our army down there and take it down for them. You know, and frankly, everything kicked off right there in South Carolina as well. But I think there's a distinction to be made between what a government does and what an individual does. You know, if you want to wear a T-shirt that has a swastika on it, you're free to do that. Now, you also may be free to wind up being, you know, treated like a pariah by everybody in your community and maybe beaten up, but you're free to do that. But it's a different thing when somebody is doing it in your name. And so if your government is actually flying the flag of rebellion against the United States government, they're doing that in your name, and I think the voters of South Carolina have a right to ask their government to take that down. I agree with Cruiser also that this has nothing to do with the shooting. The lack of a Confederate battle flag would not have, you know, kept this from happening, and there are no future shootings that are going to be avoided because of taking the flag down. That said, symbols are important, and for a lot of people, this is a symbol of hatred. This is a symbol of racism. This is a symbol of slavery. And at the very least, as this debate happens, we shouldn't diminish the significance, the symbolic significance of that symbol.
You know, Cruiser, yesterday on the radio show, I had former Congressman Ben Jones on, who's a Democrat, played the role of Cooter on the Dukes of Hazzard. Big defender of the Stars and Bars. He says it's all about Southern pride. It's not about racism. It's about being proud of your heritage, specifically the Scotch-Irish heritage, and everything that went on in making the South what it is today, and the improvements and the strides that the South has made over the years. But it's interesting because to people like Ben Jones, I absolutely wholeheartedly believe that that's how he sees the flag. And there's a lot of people in the South that are in the same boat as Ben Jones. But sometimes symbols get co-opted by other people, by bad people.
Yes.
I grew up here in Los Angeles in Southern California. And one of the things that they did at my junior high school and my high school was they banned the Raiders logo. You couldn't wear Raiders hats, you couldn't wear Raiders shirts, you couldn't wear Raiders jackets, because that symbol had been co-opted by street gangs, and if you wore the wrong thing in the wrong part of town, you could get turned into a piece of Swiss cheese. Whether the Ben Joneses of the world like it or not, the Stars and Bars has been adopted by racists, by bad people who look at that as their symbol of you know, ethnic pride or whatever it is, or racial superiority, and I don't think that can be denied at this point.
Yeah, and if you show it to people outside of the South, they're not going to think, oh, Scotch-Irish heritage. That's not, nobody's going, it's been so co-opted. It hasn't just been co-opted by a few crazies. It's been co-opted by a lot of people, and it's been so co-opted that the first thing people are going to think is, okay, maybe something racial, maybe, you know, tension. That's where we're going to go, those of us who aren't in the South, because it's been so heavily co-opted. So at some point, you got to say, yeah, it's not working out for you. And like banning, I'm okay with banning Raiders logos, though, by the way. I just thought maybe your principal was a Steelers fan, which made perfect sense. But at some point, it's this battle that I'm talking about, this battle right now. Okay, get it off the public grounds. Get it off the, as Scott said, wear it on a T-shirt if you want. You have it, fly it on your home if you want. But we don't need it hanging on state flags. We don't need it flying over state capitals right now. It's just, it makes no sense whatsoever. This seems like an easy battle to win. Although, in the end, again, it's not going to do anything. Like Lindsey Graham standing there saying that this is going to help prevent future shootings is just insane. It has nothing to do with anything. It's a separate thing, but this seems like a no-brainer.
But symbolism is important. It's
yes.
Whenever you think about space exploration, I'll tell you the first thing that comes to mind. It's that American flag flying on the moon up there.
That's right.
And you see that image and you have pride, and it's fantastic. That means something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It means we claim the moon for American cultural hegemony, and there will be a McDonald's on the surface of the moon as soon as we possibly can get it there.
And
you know, I'll tell you what, and this is not, I don't think this is taking it a step too far to suggest that it won't be long before we hear people saying the same thing about the American flag. People will be saying, you know what? For many people, this is a symbol of oppression. For the people in the Arab world, for example, this is when they see the American flag, they think of drones, picking off their relatives from 40,000 feet. And I think this debate is going to come up again. In fact, it's going to come up repeatedly about anything that is powerfully symbolic. Now, oddly enough, it doesn't go the other way on the progressives and the leftists in this country. I mean, you can't start arguing with them about their symbols because, by definition, if you're a leftist, you're part of an oppressed group, and therefore you are free to fly any flag you wish.
Last question before we go. How does this play in the South Carolina primary?
I think it's interesting that I think this may have weakened Lindsey Graham a little bit. I think he got in there maybe to mostly block Ted Cruz or anybody else who might surge in South Carolina, but I think this may have weakened him considerably with the South Carolina constituency.
Scott?
He sounded pathetic when he got to that point where he said, God help us if we don't take down that flag, like this is the issue of our day. I mean, it's one thing to say, you know what, it's time for the flag to come down, but it's another thing to start getting all dramatic about it and making it sound like the Lord will judge us if we don't take the flag down, but it's okay to, go on doing what we've been doing in our ordinary day-to-day lives.
I'm telling you, that's the primary reason he's not going to be allowed at the Fox News debate. There's not enough room on stage for 10 candidates and Lindsey Graham's fainting couch.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for today, but now it's your turn. Should the stars and bars come down or should it stay? Tell us what you think in the comment section below. I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.